What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the series finale of the Buffalo State Bengals Dynasty here on NCAA Football 14. No, I didn't want this day to come where we ended the series, but obviously all good things must come to an end, and unfortunately this one just happens to be a little bit earlier than I anticipated. Overall, Season 3 was very successful for the Bengals as they ended what is going to be their last year in MAC Conference with a 13-1 record when you consider the bowl game and the conference championship. Their only loss came to number 8 Michigan this year, and while it wasn't a close game at all, it really shows you what they can do in their new conference in the Big Ten. But we'll get to that later in the episode as we have quite a few things to wrap up in the series before we continue it on Twitch. The series is only ending here on YouTube. We still have a long ways to go with the Buffalo State Bengals. I'm just nowhere near a position where I can get these episodes out on time. It was a fun Season 3. Heck, it was a fun Season 1 through 3. And we have a lot more to cover in this Dynasty, so make sure you drop a like and subscribe for the love of franchise and Dynasty content. That's all we do here. Speaking of a dynasty, we may have one established here at Buffalo State as we led the league in All-Americans and set many school records in a single season with our big trio on offense of Lance Rice, Billy Myers, and Leon Jacobs. They really carried the load this year. Leon Jacobs is only in his second year and already has 56 touchdowns on the ground. That's just an incredible stat. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do with at least his last year here. We will have to see what happens and if he declares for the draft later on. I think realistically it would be really cool to mod the game and force him to declare, but we'll see how that goes. This is my least favorite part of the commentary, as I have to say that the Washington Huskies won the national championship behind the arm of Jacob Eason. That would never have happened in real life. He was terrible while he was at UW, but we will give them the props that they deserve. As around the league, we're taking a look at some of the other bowl games, as of course Buffalo State got back into the GoDaddy.com Bowl, and this time they beat Texas State 42-21 in a game that was pretty close up until about the fourth quarter. In the New Year's Six Bowls, the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl, UCLA comes on top of Auburn, Ohio State demolishes Texas, and Alabama gives the old smackdown to Baylor. And of course, Washington over Georgia, 28-16 was the final score in that game, as it goes Washington, Ohio State, UCLA, and Oklahoma at the end of the year. Of course, give Georgia some credit though for getting to the national championship, but hey, there's Buffalo State in at number 13 in the nation, just 5 places behind the team that beat them earlier in the year. Malik Dupree has done a great job. He improved his record from 8-5 to 13-1, and a big reason for that was the play of quarterback Lance Rice, who came back from injury, threw for 3,600 yards and 33 touchdowns, just 9 interceptions. I'm proud of myself for that one. Leon Jacobs, 13 yards away from that elusive 2,000 on the ground. He did have 32 touchdowns though, so that's quite ridiculous. Lance Rice also proving to be quite the threat on the ground himself. And Nicholas Lee, we gave it to him in strictly goal line situations, and he capped on 7 touchdowns. The big one, Billy Myers, 69 catches, nice, 1,300 yards, and 11 touchdowns. That included a long of 60 right behind him though, or not really right behind him, but Pat Hughes with 647, Jeff Brown tacked on 583. And we got some okay play from our tight ends, Chris Johnson and Chris Peterson, the Chris's, respectively tacking on a little over 600 yards. And the big one, Bender Rover comes in with 98 tackles on the year. He didn't win best linebacker over Tony Hawkins, despite having more TFLs, more tackles, more sacks, really everything except for more forced fumbles and more interceptions. But we see 2 guys who got over 10 sacks on the year, Dennis Vincent and Terrence Jackson, really held it down. We need to establish more of a third pass rusher next year, maybe from the other defensive end spot, but these guys really held down the fort. Really excited to see what they can do. And Shelton Stewart, another guy who had a great season after really struggling as a freshman. You've heard the story, but 6 interceptions on the year. He really held down his spot this year. Jay Woods wins the Thorpe Award with 3 forced fumbles. It is very well deserved. He was a monster of a box safety this year. And ultimately on defense, we had quite a few forced fumbles and turnovers altogether. We already talked about the sack production, but to put it more into perspective, Dennis Vincent and Terrence Jackson led the league at 1 and 2 respectively. That's pretty insane. We see Buffalo State had the number 2 ranked offense in the league. A big part of that was Leon Jacobs, but also Lance Rice really slinging the ball out and spreading it out to a variety of different receivers. We didn't just see the DJ Lee show this year. They led the country in points per game and rushing touchdowns as well. It was a huge year for this very young offensive unit. They're only getting better. Defensively, they were also very good. I believe that's about top 20 in total defense. They led the league in sacks, wasn't really even that close. And they were also up there in forced fumbles. Interceptions, they need a little bit more work. But Leon Jacobs, 4 yards away from being the leading rusher in college football. I don't understand how he doesn't win the Heisman with that many yards and 32 touchdowns. The other guy who won the Heisman, it wasn't even close. Getting into players leaving, the only bad news we have is that Brian Smart, our starting nickel, decided to follow our defensive coordinator to his school, and we could not convince him to stay, unfortunately. It was very close, but he was taught to go with his heart, and that's pretty corny, but he's going to Memphis. Obviously, you know this roster was very senior and junior heavy when the series started, so we actually don't have that many key graduates. Of course, losing Nicholas Lee is tough, as he was our starting fullback, the most important position on the field at all times. But when I started this series, I thought that season 4 was going to be when we finally had a chance to really explode, and I think that's going to be the case, even in the Big Ten. Look at our defensive coordinator, my goodness, he still has 11 upgrades to spend, and a familiar face, former Hawaii and Washington State Cougars head coach, Nick Rolovich. Now, if you guys don't know, I actually sat down with him and did an IRL interview. He's a cool guy, and he's going to be a great offensive coordinator. It just shows that this series has to continue on another platform. Malik Dupree, legend. He gets another transfer. That is a transfer every single season of the series to this point. Jason Lynch, a 72 overall tackle. You know what? More O-line depth is more O-line depth. We will take it. Something that was very positive overall from the series was 12 scholarship restrictions, and I feel like it really helped. Up until we made a bowl game and won the conference last year, we could only recruit guys up to 70 overall. I did kind of take that off this year, but most of these guys, aside from Will Landry, who was a sub-recruit, are 3-star guys. They're just gems that I happened to find, and I think it was very realistic for us to be able to go after these type of prospects. Recruiting is easy enough in this game to the point where I could have pretty much had a top 5 class every single season of the series loaded with 5-star athletes, and we would have gone 12-0 every single season after season 2. That would not be very exciting. I want to keep things balanced and I want to keep things fun. I want to see those position battles open up and really see the evolution of guys that are maybe less heralded prospects. That's what I feel like it's all about, especially when you're building a smaller program like Buffalo State. Many of those high caliber recruits were in the form of sub-recruits. We see Noah Brooks goes to Michigan. Brady Bonta, the bust fullback apparently, but he's number 1 in the nation, all the way to West Virginia. Steve Willowson gets a full ride over to USC to walk the red carpet. Actually, USC is overrated as hell. I designed Eddie Jones as a nickel corner, but he went over to Michigan State instead. Marshall Chase over to Purdue to be their middle linebacker. I honestly was not pursuing him at all. I liked Rory Alston much better. We did manage to sign a few more prospects on walk-on type deals. I'm not really sure how that works. Sometimes when you don't go after guys, they just decide to sign with you if you take them off their board and they had interest. Kyle Woods, a 4-star athlete, will be moved over to free safety, and the other notable guy is Brent Frazier, who I did not go after at all. They are gems that are coming onto the squad, and you can definitely bet we're going to keep them around. Brent Frazier is a great defensive tackle, but we already have so much depth there with Nate Jones and Dennis Vincent, so I decided that I'm going to slide him over to defensive end. He's going to play more of like a 5 technique role, maybe be like the starter in a 4-3 set on the other side opposite of Terrence Jackson. Who knows, really? We did not need a linebacker, so I didn't go after any besides Rory Alston, but Larry White decided to commit anyway, along with Glenn Johnston, so they're going to ride the bench for their entire careers. I don't know what to tell you. Kyle Woods was the aforementioned athlete, and while he'd be great at wide receiver, we already have Will Landry there, so he would not play. Instead, I decided to make him our new starting free safety. So that's going to be really interesting. You already see some of his athletic traits. He's 6'1", 179, frail as a stick, but he has 93 speed, 92 excel, great agility, good catching. He is a playmaker and a half, and it's going to be tough to complete anything on him. Moving into training results, we see that Leon Jacobs gets the big boost all the way up to an 87 overall now. He came into the league at a 69, and he's already there. He has a chance to be like a 95 overall by his senior year. Lance Rice improves quite handedly, literally, as he gets an upgrade to his arm strength along with his accuracy to go up to an 85 throw power. We see Pat Hughes gets another big off-season upgrade, +6 overall. Billy Myers only +4, a little disappointing. He hasn't exactly progressed super well, but he's had such a high floor that it doesn't really matter, I feel like. We have great depth with Jeff Brown, Bo Burrell right behind Will Landry, and then Lance Phillips, Ryan Baker, and Ray Beater could get some playing time as well. Although they really haven't too much to this point. We saw Lance Phillips make some great plays, but that is really just about it. Also, Pat Hughes, 96 catching. Nothing really noticeable in the trenches, but we do see that Dennis Vincent is up to an 80 overall after a big time 6 overall boost. Chaz Boomer will be your starter at left outside linebacker. He's a monster with a lot of hit power. Bender Rover takes over for his second straight year at middle linebacker at a 74 overall. He plays much better than that, however. And then Tony Hawkins at right outside linebacker getting some competition from Jim Branch. But Tony Hawkins won several awards for a reason, including Best Linebacker, and I believe the Big Narc, because he is just that good. It looks really similar statistically until you get to that coverage stat, and Tony Hawkins is pretty much unstoppable there. Shelton Stewart is up to a 77 overall. Zach Jennings only goes up 4 attribute points, which is kind of sad. But of course, Jay Woods up to a 78 overall. And Justin Williams, not the great progression we expected, as Kevin Kinsley gets the opposite. +7, and his kick power is up to a 95. We're going to have to test that range, but I think he's going to be able to hit like a 55-yarder. Next order of business. We are swapping Buffalo State with Rutgers into the Big Ten East. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be tough. And most importantly, it's going to be really, really fun over on twitch.tv. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it on Legion of Nerds or on Franchise Gaming 88 on Twitch yet, but I will certainly let you guys know in a community post when we get to that. Regardless where this ends up, this Buffalo State project was one of the most fun series or productions I have ever done in anything, period, and I enjoyed it so thoroughly. I got so attached to this team, all the players, and I would love nothing more than to be able to produce this on YouTube full-time for that. But you guys know, in life shit happens. You can't always make time for these types of things. But if I could make time, I totally would, because your support and your interactions have meant the world to me, literally. This has been such a fun, exhilarating series that I have so many memories from and learned just so much about production and collaboration work from. This is going to be your schedule for Season 4 over on twitch.tv. And guys, honestly, I cannot wait. Please make sure you drop a like on the video, though, and subscribe for the love of franchise and Dynasty content. Who knows if an NCAA series is going to be coming out from FG anytime soon. But if there is one, I would be very, very excited for it. That being said, for the last time on this series, my name is Legion. I am signing out. Take care, everybody. I feel you,